This is episode 141 of the Rise Up Podcast. We're a morning radio show hosted by Steve and Tim on Family Life, a network of stations across New York and Pennsylvania. This podcast is a weekly conversation designed to help you think and laugh and keep your eyes on Jesus. If you haven't already, subscribe today so you don't miss a single episode. And find out more about our show at familylife.org.
If you're looking for fun, hope, and encouragement, you've come to the right place. This is Rise Up with Steve and Tim on Family Life.
Quick, slow, slow.
Ooh.
Quick, slow, slow. My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. That listen thing,
Wow.
that's first. Quick to listen. So many times we want to move on to the next thing and not listen. We're talking listening on the Rise Up Podcast.
It's one of those things that makes people feel loved, honestly, when we listen well. You know, I mean, it's weird because you can't help but hear if that, you know, when somebody's talking, you hear words, you hear conversation.
Yeah.
Hearing and listening are very different things. And I learned that from my mother growing up.
Mhm.
It's like, no, Timmy, were you listening? Oh, well, I guess not. But there's different, when we were talking about this before, Steve, there are different kinds of listeners. I don't mean different levels of ability, because we all know you can be a good listener, you can be a bad listener. But don't you think that you can be a good listener in one area, maybe a not so great listener in another area? Can I just start, because I don't want to put
Sure.
anybody else under the bus?
Sure.
Maybe I'm a good listener to people, but I'm not always a great listener to tasks. You know, it's like, I heard it a lot growing up. Hey, again, from my mom, Timmy, I asked you to, clean your room, whatever it may be. And it still happens to today. You know, it's like, hey, I asked you this thing, the trash, this. I was like, well, yep, that was a task. I did get asked that. And it went in one ear and out the other. So I don't know if it comes down to being task-oriented, people-oriented, but like in a lot of categories in life, those two things, those come up.
There's several people in my life who I'm close to, who I see a lot, who are around me, and you are one of them that are a good listener. I can think of, because there are a few. There are not many. When I say a few, there are not very many what I consider great listeners. And here's what I consider a great listener. And you're one of them. There's a few other people at work. There's someone else, and my daughter-in-law and son are like this as well, in that when you come walking into a room or you start a conversation, they will have their full attention on you. When I say full attention, I'm not just saying their ears, but their eyes. Their body language says, I see you. I hear you. I'm listening to you. They'll drop everything and do that. That is something that I don't have. I have to think about it. I have to really, if I'm going to do that, I have to, like even right now during this conversation, I have to focus and concentrate on, okay, I'm going to be looking at Tim when he speaks to me, because it doesn't come naturally to me. My natural tendency is to go like, okay, there's something else I could be doing right now, or checking on something, and I have to go like, no, keep your head steady, keep it right there. But anyway, so that's a gift that you have. So I want to ask you, is that something that you don't even think about? Because I have to think about it to do it. Or is it something that you were taught? Is it something that you're born with? Is it nature or nurture? What do you think?
Good question. I don't know how to answer that, because I think it comes kind of, Steve, down to the task people orientation. Because before I fully try to answer your question, I'll just say I've got to do the same thing as you when it comes to task listening.
Okay.
With tasks, I have to dial in. And you've probably even noticed sometimes if I repeat back what somebody says to me, because I've got to think like, okay, that's what I've got to do. Say it again so I know to do it. You know, we're leaving in 5 minutes. Okay, we're leaving in 5 minutes. Thanks. Like that kind of thing. So that's a choice I have to make, and I need to make it more often to get better at it. Much like you're saying, and I notice it, Steve, that you do like make a deliberate focus to look and that sort of thing. And that's cool, because I wouldn't have known that was something you had to work at, because I just see you doing it. So kudos, you seem to be working on it really well. To answer whether I do that naturally or not myself, I think a lot of it comes from good example. I talked A lot. I won't say too much because, kids have to get things off their chest and out of their head. But I talked a lot as a kid. I kind of still talk a lot now. But I was blessed, I'll say, to have family that listened and made me feel listened to, like deliberately. My mom, my dad, my brothers, they've all heard me talk about a lot of things, from important stuff to totally not important stuff. So I think having received it, maybe that's where some of that comes from. I got to be honest, I just like talking with people too. Yeah. I want to hear what they have to say. I just like both sides of conversation. I just enjoy it.
Okay. I have a good bad for me. I'll go with the good first because it'll make me feel better. The good is that, and I've been told this by my wife, so that's a good authority. She's around me a lot. She says, I'm so thankful that you do this certain thing that she goes, I know from talking to other people who are married, their husbands don't do this. So thank you for doing this. And I'm like, what's that? She goes, and you talked about tasks already. When she gives me a task to do, I'll drop everything and do it immediately.
Oh, good man.
As opposed to thinking well, I got something else going on.
Yeah.
And so I do that. I don't know. I just do that. Now I do that part well because I already told you what I don't do well. I don't pay full attention when someone's actually talking in a conversation many times. So that's the good thing. So I do that. So that's good.
Yes.
But here's something that just happened that, and here's where the Holy Spirit came in. It just happened recently where our daughter was talking to my wife and I on speakerphone, and we talk a lot. So, I mean, she'll call several times a day sometimes and talk. Oh. She was driving home from work, and my thought, and I was watching something on TV that was really important at the time. And she's on speakerphone, and my initial thought was, I need to put the TV on pause and give my full attention and listen to my daughter. But I didn't. I kept the TV going. And our daughter was talking about something, and I couldn't tell from her emotion, her voice, that it was really, really, really important to her. She sounded like her regular voice, probably because I wasn't paying attention. And all of a sudden, something happened on the TV, and I reacted to the TV while she was trying to display something on the phone. I know. And she got really emotional and said, okay, I'm going to call back later. You're obviously not, you're full. She was basically saying your full attention isn't on me and this. So we'll talk later. Goodbye.
Oh.
And so immediately I knew I didn't listen to that prompting of just pay attention to your daughter. She's on the phone. And I knew I should. So we communicated immediately right after that. So I apologized. I said, Laura, you're right. I made a mistake. I should have paused the TV. Or turned the TV off. I should have paid full attention to you. That was my mistake, and I apologize. Because she even texted back. She goes, I feel lately like I'm not being seen and heard, and that just solidified what I've been feeling lately. And I didn't know that going into the phone call. She lives across the country somewhere, so we don't see each other. Anyway, so my point is, not paying attention to someone, because you mentioned people just want to be seen and heard and listened to. You don't have to react. You don't have to. You have to come back with anything amazing. People just want to be heard and seen. If you do fail at that, my suggestion is to quickly apologize when you realize it.
This is not to make you feel worse, Steve.
Okay.
How's that for an intro?
Yeah.
It's not to make you feel worse, because all of us do this, but you know this already. The other, and I just did this myself yesterday. The other one in that scenario that didn't get listened to was the Holy Spirit. You knew it. You heard it.
Right.
You heard.
No.
Pause the TV, and you're like, no. Because I just did that last night with my wife. I had this inkling, and it was like, you need to not, and it wasn't about listening, but it was the Spirit that I didn't listen to. Case in point, I think maybe we do that all the time as Christians. We know, we're like, I knew this thing. I knew it ahead of time, and I didn't listen. Right. I'm sorry, Lord, and He gives us other chances.
Yes.
Other thing I wanted to say about listening is this is going to sound kind of totally opposite of everything we've been saying about how it's so good to listen to people, and because it is. There are times where I've had to learn that I can't toss the gift of listening to somebody else's bad habit of gabbing. Listening is a gift. Listening is loving. And like all things that are valuable as Christians, we've got to be generous with them. We do. Like that's what the Lord did for us. But like everything that's valuable, it needs to be protected. So your listening can be abused by somebody else. Somebody else can make you listen to them just because it's entertaining for them. And at that point, then it's like, this isn't respectful to this real gift that you have of listening. And we all know these instances where maybe you've been caught in a cornered even. You're like, this isn't even important. This person's just loves to hear themselves talk. And this isn't good for either of our time. They're wasting time and now I am too. So there's got to be a place to like know that too. That being a good listener doesn't mean you've got to be trotted out till your bank account of listening has run dry. Like your listening is valuable. So you've got to be generous with it, but your listening is valuable. So you've got to protect it too.
So many verses in the Bible about listening, and the important, just the practicality of it is what? 2 ears, 2 eyes,
yep,
1 mouth. So look, listen, and be that way. Now, my typical way to end this podcast would be like, Tim, do you have anything to say on listening? Because I've had some great things to say, but I haven't heard you say anything about it. But I'm not going to do that.
No.
Because I'm not going to do that at all.
You've been working on it.
Today is the day the Lord has made. Rejoice and be glad in it. This is Rise Up on Family Life.
The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? I've never been afraid of cemeteries. I've actually always found them quite beautiful. But the words from the 27th Psalm felt a little different as I read them this time, while also reading the names on the headstones around me. How many of these people had trusted the Lord as their light and their salvation during their earthly lifetimes? How many of them had trusted Him with their fears? I brought my Bible to my local cemetery and read my favorite psalm, looking at graves marked with names and numbers. All of those numbers stood for whole, personal lives. And each of those names had people who had loved them left behind. That's when I thought of my neighbors. How many of them know the Lord as their light? How many of them know with Him they have nothing to fear? Bringing your Bible somewhere unexpected might just remind you like it did me. We carry His truth and light and life with us wherever we go. Am I letting others see it?
Thanks for letting us be part of your morning. It's Rise Up with Steve and Tim on Family Life.
The old record was 15 feet 9 inches, but now we have a new record of 17 feet 9.5 inches.
Okay.
Woohoo!
Well, I need to see what it is before I'm impressed.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That would be an important part of the story. And Pennsylvania guy, Joshua, has broken the record. He has built the world's tallest hat. The world's tallest hat is now 17 feet, 9.5 inches, in case you were wondering. And you're probably wondering why I even bring this up, why it's important. Well, there's many, many scriptures in the Bible about being completely humble and gentle, be patient, bearing one another in love. So, the humility and being humble is a very, very important part. So when you get a new world record, no matter what it is, even if it's something as, I don't know, silly as the world's tallest hat, you have to stay humble, because I can only imagine. I can only imagine for this Joshua. It's hard to stay humble, because making a hat like that size, that would, I would think, give you a big head.
No, it would just...
No?
The hat doesn't... His head stays the same.
I see.
Starting your day with fun and encouragement. This is Rise Up on Family Life.
The toddler, Steve, she's really into stories, picture books. She'll picture Bible. She's got one of those. So we're enjoying those these days, especially at bedtime. She wants to know the good guys from the bad guys. You've got some bad guys in there. You know it. I mean, she points at a picture of big, tall guy with armor on. Bad guy? Yeah. Goliath? Bad guy, honey. Absolutely. That's easy. The soldiers who arrested Jesus. She points at them, though, and says, bad guys? Well, yeah, honey. They shouldn't have done that. But here's what I'm thinking, Steve, because you know what else I know? I mean, as a parent, what I know my sin put Jesus on the cross. Yes, soldiers arrested him. I'm guilty of the sin that made Jesus have to go to the cross in the first place. I look at those nail marks in Jesus' hands. My little girl, she'll point at them, say, owies. Yeah, I know those owies. They're there for me. They're there for my little girl too. Ooh, maybe it's easier to stop trying to point out who all the bad guys are. Let's just keep pointing to the one and only good guy in the story.
Coffee? Check. Music? Check. Fun and encouragement? Check and check. It's Rise Up with Steve and Tim on Family Life.
Where can I take my Bible where I've never taken it before? Okay, I thought, where do I go quite a bit, but I've never taken the Bible? Let's see. Oh, the grocery store. Hey, I go there a bunch. And there's a bench outside, and I've seen people sit there before. I never had, until I did. Did it twice. Honestly, nothing happened. Okay, actually something did happen. I read my Bible. I had never read my Bible before going grocery shopping before at the grocery store. So that's a win. I wondered, if I took my Bible other different places, how much more would I read my Bible? The answer is simple. A lot more. Now, my goal was to read my Bible and have anyone, just come up to me and ask me, hey, what was I doing? But that didn't happen. Maybe someday it will. I know it won't happen if I don't bring my Bible with me. So even though nobody stopped and talked with me about Bible reading, I read my Bible. Plus, I was at the grocery store, so I got to think about grocery store dad jokes. I did go shopping mainly in the produce section. After all, I did have a honey-do list. And as always, I got a little confused and I had to call my wife while shopping to make something more clear to me. I wasn't sure how many heads of lettuce I was supposed to buy. Turns out, 2 heads are better than 1. And then I wondered if there's any grocery store jokes in the Bible. I guess I'll have to read up more on Abraham, because with Abraham, there's a lot.
May the blessings of the Lord be with you in all that you do today. This is Rise Up on Family Life.